GitHub is one of the most popular places to store and share Android projects. It's available at github.com, and you can sign up and store as many projects as you want for free as long as those projects are public, that is, completely open source. You can also pay to host private plans. I'm going to describe first how to get started with GitHub and then how to upload a project from Android Studio. If you already have a GitHub account, you can sign in now. I'll type in my username, which is just my real name, and my password, and I'll sign in. If you don't already have an account, just follow the prompts from the home screen to create the account, which will be identified with your email address. The next step is to go back to Android Studio and configure Android Studio to work with GitHub. I'll go to the Configure menu on the Welcome screen, to Preferences or Settings, and then under Version Control, I'll choose GitHub. I'll type in the login that I created when I created my GitHub account and the associated password. And then I'll click the Test button to make sure that I've entered the correct credentials. If you see the success message, you're ready to start checking in projects. I'll then click OK, and then I'll create a brand new Android Studio project that I can use with GitHub. I'll Start a new Android Studio project, and I'll name the new project GitHub Project. You can place it anywhere on your hard disk. I'll then click Next, and then I'll click Next again. And for this application, I'll do something a little more complex. I'll use the Master Detail Flow template. I'll click Next, and then Finish to create the project. Once the project is created, I'll wait a moment to make sure that any indexing or other build tasks are complete. Then I'll start the process of checking the project into GitHub. I'll go to the menu and choose VCS for Version Control System, then Import into Version Control, Share Project on GitHub. If you're prompted for your user credentials, you might need to enter them again. And along the way, you might also be prompted for something called a master password. This allows you to protect any GitHub configuration information that you're storing on your computer. Just follow the prompts until you get to this screen. This is where you're asked what the new repository name is. If your original project has any spaces in it, you'll see this message, indicating that the repository name can't contain spaces or other special characters. The name can only consist of letters, numbers, dashes, dots, and underscores. So I'll get rid of the space. Also notice that the private option is disabled, and that's because I'm using a free account that only hosts public projects. And then I'll click Share. After a moment, I see a listing of all of the app resources that are going to be checked into GitHub. I'll then click OK and wait a few moments. At the bottom of the screen, I momentarily see a message indicating that my project's assets are being pushed to GitHub. And then if everything works correctly, I see this message indicating that the project was successfully shared. I'll click that link, and that takes me directly to the new project, which is now hosted on GitHub. I can now open files directly from here, or I can drill down to the main directory, which is where my app's resources and Java code are hosted. I can also find my Android manifest file here. And when I get to a text-based file, either XML or Java, I can click it and immediately see its contents. Once you've uploaded a project to GitHub, a special hidden directory will be created. I'll go to Terminal and switch to my Android Studio Projects directory, and from there to my GitHub Project directory. I'll type ls, and on Mac, I only see non-hidden files and folders. If you type dir on Windows, you'll see more than that, and that's because some of the files and folders start with a dot character. These are hidden on Mac by default. But I'll type ls.git, and I see the contents of a directory named .git that contains my Git repository on my local hard disk. I'll close Terminal and return to Android Studio, and next I'll open one of my activity classes and make just a very simple change. I'll just add one extra hard return, and that's enough to flag this file as having been changed and make it eligible for recommitting into my Git repository. To commit and upload it, I'll go to my project module, right-click, and then choose Git Commit Directory. And I see a listing of just that one file that's been changed. Before I upload it, I need to add a commit message. I'll set my message to Made a Tiny Change. Then to commit the file, I'll move the cursor over the Commit button, and a menu pops up. I'll then choose Commit and Push. There will then be a code analysis. If any issues pop up, you'll be given a chance to review the problems before you check in your code. Or you can ignore this and simply click the Commit button to force the commit to happen. When you see the Push Commits dialog, click Push, and the change will be uploaded to GitHub. And you should see this message indicating that everything went well. You might now see a version control tab at the bottom of your screen, and this is another window we haven't seen before that has tools for working with GitHub. So those are the basics for checking in a project, making a little change, and then updating that one file in your GitHub repository.